Hey everybody, welcome. Howdy y'all. I'm gonna be your host today. So today, let's see who we got here. Michael, hi there. We got Betty and Jim, nice to see you guys. We got Sean, Dallas, Dennis, and Freddie. So nice to see everybody. Glad you guys could make it. So today we're gonna be covering kind of just basic startup to shutdown with the shirt in between. Just to kind of recap for everybody who's maybe a little bit, maybe it's been a while since you were initially trained, and sometimes, you know, just going through the basics, you'll find out, oh yeah, I've been skipping that step or something like that. That's our intention for today. So let's go ahead and get started. So we've got the Plus model here. Most of the same things will apply to the 330TX. Main difference with the Plus is we leave the back power switch on, so that's where I've got it now. If you're using the 330TX, you would go ahead and switch it on right now. I'm gonna go ahead and send the gantry forward here. We're just getting straight into it today. I kind of realized we kind of jumped ahead. I want to see everybody in the chat with any questions also. So right here, I don't know, here we go. So every morning before you start printing, very good, start with checking your ink levels. There we go, getting the close up. So always got to check your ink levels right up to here. A little bit higher is okay, up to the 200 milliliter line if your bottles have the little measurement lines. If they don't, just right to the top of the bracket is okay. You want to avoid filling it too high because it can corrode these little connectors on the ink bottles here. So you do want to be conscious of that. If you have the Plus, you want to go ahead and swirl your whites. I don't want to see any of that bartender shake kind of deal going on. You just a gentle swirl. You don't want any air bubbles introduced into your ink. So once you've checked all your bottles, everything's looking good, go ahead and send the gantry back if you didn't send it to the front in the first place. Next, you're going to want to go ahead and do your circulation. So that's going to sound like this. We did it beforehand so you guys don't have to suffer through the noise of it. So you do that, let it run for about 30 seconds. Next, you're going to come here. Regardless of your printer type, you're going to examine your white ink lines. Give me 1 second here. So you're going to examine your white ink lines. If you have separation, or if you, even in the colors, if you notice like air bubbles or anything like that, that means you're going to need to prime. If everything is looking nice, like how these ones are, then you can skip straight to head cleanings. If it's looking pretty bad, we're going to go ahead and do a prime. So first you're going to have to turn on the power. You're going to press and hold the power button until it beeps. It's going to go through its little initiation process. So while that does its thing, how's everybody doing? You guys doing any interesting jobs? That's my favorite thing. I love to hear like creative uses that you guys have, unusual applications, cool designs, stuff like that. This one seems to be doing an ink chip reset, so this is kind of the most convenient time for it, so we'll let it do its thing. So come on, talk to me, guys. I don't want to just be a talking head, I want to be a conversation piece, right? Okay, so it's done with that ink chip reset, so we're going to go ahead and open up your white ink lines. You want to be gentle on your ink lines, so I like to put a finger behind all of the tubing, and then I'll use my thumb to open it from the outside. That way you're not going in between each one and you put unnecessary pressure down on those dampers. So you want to just be as gentle as possible when you can. So you just go behind all of them like so. I think my fingers were kind of blocking it. So behind like this and then from the outside, right? So in this case, our ink lines are looking good. If it wasn't looking so good, you would do power and down once at the same time. That's going to go ahead and run the pump and do what we call priming. So that's going to go ahead and prime the ink through the lines, and it's going to go into the waste bottle. You want to pay attention to your waste bottle when it's doing that and to your ink lines that you're priming for. See, Michael's asking, do you use the silicone paper to set the ink, or can you use craft paper? So for curing the ink, I really like the craft paper. It's a little more resilient to the moisture of the ink. and the ink's not really going to stick to it or anything like that. So the craft paper is really nice because you can get a lot of use out of it. The downside is I do see that it tends to leave a more glossy finish. So if you're looking for a very matte finish to your ink, maybe the silicone sheets are going to be better for you. So back to this, when you're doing the priming, you want to be looking at your waste bottle. It should be a steady flow into the waste bottle rather than a trickle or a bubble gurgle type situation. So you want to make sure you pay attention there. Your ink lines should look good, and then you can stop it with the power button. Typically, you will not need to let it run the full duration until it stops by itself. That would be pretty wasteful in most cases. So you want to make sure you go ahead and stop it yourself before you waste too much ink there. So next you're going to do is a head cleaning. You can do it from the computer, or you can go ahead and just press and hold the feeding button until it beeps. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I see a couple more people joined in. Welcome, welcome. We're just doing startup to shutdown today. We're going to print a shirt. You're going to get to see, you know, everything from startup to shutdown. The only thing we're not doing and covering today is going to be the pre-treat. We're going to do a separate Creators Live for that one since there's just so much information in pre-treat alone. So we have some shirts that are already pre-treated for this one, just as a heads up in case that's something you guys are looking for. So it's going to go ahead and do its head cleaning. In the meantime, you can get your shirts ready, whatever else you want to do. Usually this would be the time that I am go ahead and pressing the shirts. Dallas is saying, sometimes my whites look great printed, but then after curing with the silicone sheets, it doesn't look as good. Should I use the craft instead? So the craft sheets aren't going to have much impact on that. What I would suspect is maybe you're applying a little bit too much pressure upon curing the ink. If it looks good when it prints, I don't suspect the pre-treat being the issue. I would really suspect, you know, once you go to cure the ink, that's where the problem may lie. So let's have you try less pressure. If you're already using like a 1 pressure, then try the craft sheets, see if it works out better for you. I would also want to follow up and see what kind of heat press that you're using. Usually 2 to 3 pressure. Okay, maybe let's do like a 1 to 2 pressure and see how that works out, if that resolves your issue. Sean McKay asks, just curious, is there a way to get out the ink once pressed using DTF 330 plus? So like you're asking if you can get the ink off of the sheet once you've printed on the sheet. I'm not familiar with a method to do that. I can go ahead and follow up with our tech team and see if that's something that they know, but that's not something I'm personally familiar with. So I'm going to go ahead and do that second head cleaning. Once that's all done, then we can do our nozzle check. So with the nozzle check being the next step, we want to go ahead and take out our platen. Like lines, not the whole shirt. Yeah, that's definitely something that I would want to follow up with, Sean, about the direct-to-film stuff. So if you can drop your email into the chat so that we can follow up with you later on, I can get you an answer for that for certain. Okay, so with the platen, there is a right and a wrong way around. A lot of people say just go based on the side that has the little sticker here. That's not the best method. You want to take a look at it on, let's see, where's my camera here? On one side, the top will be longer than the base, and then on the other side, the top and the bottom are even. So the even side will always go towards the front of the machine. The uneven side will go towards the back of the machine. You want to put it down on your print table and pull it all the way into this corner right up here. This is almost done with this. So our next step, once that head cleaning is done, we're going to go ahead and do a height adjustment. So I'll show you both ways, since we got the other camera here. So you want to make sure that this platen is all the way into the corner here. So just a simple pull, doesn't lock into place or anything like that. It's just held together in place by that grip on the bottom. Okay, so that head cleaning's done. So you can do manual height adjustment by holding down, front, and you're bringing these sensors here over the highest point of whatever you're printing on. So if you're printing on something uneven, like something with maybe a pocket or a raised area of some kind, you definitely want to take these sensors right over that raised area. Then you're going to press and hold the up button until it stops on its own, and then you hit standby. In some cases, depending on where the gantry is when you hit that standby button, sometimes it'll go to the home position. You just hit standby again. You don't have to do the whole height adjustment again. Alternatively, you can just do function in rear. It's going to check about this much of the platen. So if you have a raised area that's not in this section, it's not going to catch it. So you want to make sure that you're diligent, and if you have an uneven surface that you're printing on, you manually adjust the height to wherever it sticks up the highest. And you just get down on eye level and you line it up. So we'll just go ahead and do function rear this time. And you'll see what I mean. So it'll always check about this section here. Okay, then we'll go into the software and we're going to do that nozzle check. A lot of people like to print their nozzle check onto like a transparency sheet or something, which is perfectly fine. I like just printing it on the platen. I can usually tell how everything's looking. It'll be difficult to show the camera. I don't think I'll even attempt it. Yeah. So we're just going to go ahead and wash this off. We got a rag here and some alcohol. You can also use super cleaner if you don't have any alcohol handy. And you just wipe it right off. That way next time you print one, you can tell how's everything going. So we've got our shirts here. Let's go ahead and load the shirt. I always like to load the shirt before I set up the job, unless I'm going to be printing a bunch of the same job. This will kind of reduce room for error. If the shirt's ready and you print an oopsie, that's better than the shirt not being ready, and then when you hit print, it gets like a head strike or something. So when you tuck it in, you want to start from the center and work your way to the edges. That's going to give you the best results. In the camera, it looks like there's some pretty bad lint on here, but I assure you that it's quite minor. It's just showing up really good on the camera, like this little spot here. So in our direct rip, we have a job set up. So I'll kind of just walk you through the steps here. You go File, Open, choose your design. You're going to go to your environment and choose the appropriate environment based on the kind of shirt that you're printing on. And you know what? I was moving on too fast. I caught myself here. I was telling you I was wanting to go ahead and set up the shirt first and then move on to the computer. I'm not done. I want to go ahead and do function rear and adjust the height. That's not quite done yet. So that kind of showcases how easy it is to forget that step and make an oopsie. So you want to be diligent about that. Okay, so in the software, I think we might have a camera number 2. Nice. So you choose your design. You're going to choose, it's not the highest resolution capture here, but I think you guys all have the software to reference as well. So this shouldn't be too foreign. So you're going to go ahead and choose the environment based on the type of garment you're printing on. In this case, we're going black cotton. In your Q-rip window, that should be the little guy right here. If you don't have that, you can find that under View, and then Show Q-rip is going to be like halfway down. So you adjust your size. If you want to keep it proportional, there's this little checkbox with the lock icon. If you don't want it proportional and you want to stretch it in only one direction, you can uncheck that and stretch it however you want. Next is going to be your position. I'm going to choose top center. That's going to center the graphic right at the top of the platen where we load the collar at typically. You're going to choose print setup and choose your port. You're going to do properties. and do your margins. I like a 2-inch margin because I load the collar right up to the edge of the platen. If you like to load your collar a little bit lower down, then you might want to do less of a margin. Otherwise, the graphic tends to go too far down the shirt, and it sometimes will look funny when you wear it. So that's kind of up to personal preference. Another personal preference is highlight. So depending on the design, you may or may not want to use the highlight layer. If you do, you want to set fuzziness to 15 if it didn't default to that. I know some versions of the direct rip will have the fuzziness default to 15, and that'll be right along here. Depending on your screen size, this will kind of lay out a little bit differently. And for highlight generator, you'll want on the fly so that it prints with the color layer. If you don't want highlight at all, you'll just change that to none, and then you don't have to worry about any of the settings for that. For underbase, I'll typically not adjust that unless, for whatever reason, I'm like flooding the shirt with the white ink, which is not very typical. The last step you're going to have is image and add white underbase choke. I have the job in the queue already, so I got to delete that. Otherwise, it won't let you add it. So image, add white underbase choke. It's a very rare circumstance where you would change this. The only reason you would adjust this down is if you're getting very fine lettering and it's disappearing when you print. So it's not going to lay down enough white underbase, and it's going to basically erase it from the image. But you have to have that really fine, that really fine lettering for that to be needed. Otherwise, you just leave it at 2 and you're all set. And what that's going to do is that's going to reduce the white outline around the print. So naturally, when you print white ink, it expands a little bit when it comes in contact with the pre-treat, and this is accounting for that. That way, if there's not already a white outline around your design, you're not going to make one by accident. So you can right-click on the graphic, do a print preview. So that's what we're looking like here. If you want to see it on a different color background, you have the option. So that's what we're going to have today. You can go ahead and hit print. If you want to exit the preview, you can use the escape key or use the door icon. I'm sure a lot of you guys have made the mistake of clicking the X and closing the whole program. You got to go and start over. That's annoying. So we're going to go ahead and hit print. If you're going to utilize copies, I would recommend no more than 5 at a time to allow yourself some breathing room between prints. And doing more than 5 copies, sometimes the printer can kind of get caught up on itself, so it's not ideal. So you can go ahead and print OK and let it rip. So you can print with the lid open or closed. That's also a personal preference. For presentation purposes, it's going to be a little better to have the lid open here, but in your shop, it's just up to you. I see Michael prints with it closed there from what I can tell. So here we go. Depending on humidity levels, sometimes the white will turn out a little better. So you want to make sure you keep it within those guidelines that are in the user manual. That is in the user manual currently, right? I want to make sure. If I'm saying it's in the user manual, I want to make extra sure that it is. So while that prints, any other questions here? Where in the rip is the cost per print info? So at the bottom of the direct rip, you're going to have that window called the queue manager. After you've printed a design, it's going to give you the line item in there with a little plus sign to the left of the job name. You would click that and you scroll down a little bit and it'll give you ink cost. Alternatively, if you want to get the ink cost without having to print anything, you can set up the job just like we did right now, and then you can add it to the queue. So in the queue manager, you're going to have the piece of paper with a plus sign icon in its own toolbar. You click that, that'll add the job to the queue. You would need to right click on that job and select rip. So that's going to tell the software to process that job like it does when it prints. Once that's done, you can go ahead and look at the ink cost. If you look at it too early, it's not going to give you an accurate cost. If for whatever reason your ink cost is not set up and it's just telling you 0, you would set the ink cost by going to Options and then Ink Cost. The ink cost is dependent on the volume that you buy. So the direct drip is calculating based off of liter size. So you would have to do the conversion if you're buying smaller bottles of ink. It's not going to be as cost effective for you, and so you would need to adjust your numbers in there. Alternatively, if you're buying higher volume of ink, I think the savings goes up. So you would be able to adjust in there as well for that. So this print is almost done with the white layer. I have it on the A layer setting on the control panel here. So that means once it's done with the white, it's going to beep and the error light's going to come on. And it's just going to sit there until I hit standby. Gantry is going to come to the front and it's going to do the color layer. If you wanted to automatically come back to the front and start printing, you can set it to the B setting. Give me 1 second, let me send this to the front. There it goes. So you can change it to the B setting by pressing and holding the function key until the status light stops blinking. Once it stops blinking, when you let go, the light will turn pink, and you can use the up and down keys to select the layer that you want. For most applications, you're going to be using A or B. It's very rare that you would use C and D for those additional passes. So any other questions in the chat that I can address? Anything that I haven't addressed? Maybe it didn't show up on my screen here. Any color I don't underbase washes out. I did an all blue print on a white shirt with no underbase and it washed out. On blacks or on any color, if not underbased, wash out. If it's fine after washing. Any idea why? I would ask, not fully washed out, just fades big time each wash. Okay, so I guess my first question there, Dallas, would be, are you using pre-treat on those white shirts? If you are, okay, you are, so that's tricky. It would take a little bit of troubleshooting there. I would say try less pre-treat on the white shirts. It could be that there's too much. I know we covered, what was it, a week or two ago about using too much pre-treat, and it kind of creates a barrier between the ink and the shirt, and it's not able to bond properly. Alternatively, since it's also happening on your dark shirts, which otherwise wash out well, or wash correctly, I mean, I would suspect maybe a curing issue. Double check your heat press settings. It could be that maybe you're pressing it too long, maybe too short, or with too much pressure, and that may be negatively affecting your curing process. So those are some things to check. This print's turning out pretty good. I don't really have any complaints, nothing that aren't just like graphic related. So anything else that I can address here? Got a couple more seconds on the print. So next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go over your daily, weekly, and monthly maintenance. I feel like that's something that's really important to go ahead and address. Sometimes people skimp on the maintenance a little bit. You know, I know I've been guilty of it from time to time. So if you want, go ahead and take some notes in case it's something that you're not already doing. All right, so this shirt's done. I'm gonna go ahead and untuck it. If you tuck the shirt in light enough, you can just kind of pick it up from the front and it'll untuck itself. But I think I tucked it in a little bit too hard this time. So we're gonna go ahead and take this off screen here. That's gonna go over to the heat press for 90 seconds on 2 presses on a light pressure of 1 or a 2 on the Stahl's heat press strength. On other heat presses, just kind of a light pressure in general is the goal. So I'm going to go ahead and take this off so that you guys can see everything nicely when I'm going over the maintenance. So daily maintenance is going to consist of wet capping. So you go ahead and do function up. That's going to undock your print head. And then I'll wait for the close-up cam. Give us 1 second here. Once the shirt is printed, can I run it through a belt dryer to cure? Yes. Each conveyor dryer is going to have kind of different settings to get the optimal results. That's going to be a little bit of trial and error on your side. So if it's a conveyor dryer that we're already familiar with, I can follow up with the tech support guys and we can get those settings if that's something that we are already familiar with. If it's a new one, we can get you maybe some guidelines to help get you started and know what to look for. So here, our goal is going to be cleaning the edges around these sponges, down the middle, both sides on the top edge of this wiper blade here. Sometimes, depending on the age of your pump, this little wiper blade guy will fall down when you're trying to clean it. You can kind of just fish it back up with the swab and you should be all set. So the process is going to consist of unclipping your cleaner. You're going to pump in that cleaning solution and you'll see it come up here. Just like so. You clip that cleaner line and you're going to hit the plunger on the back. It's going to drain it out. We're just going to do that a couple of times. Wait for it to make the little suction noise. And then you can pump it in again. I don't know if the camera was able to pick that up, or the microphone, I mean. I'll get in close this time, see if the microphone will pick it up. So do a couple of rinses here. That noise right there. And then we're going to top it off one more time and we're going to use this cleaning solution to clean the capping station. So it's going to be just like this. The most important part is that top edge because that's the part that docks with the print head. If you ever have some ink that's being really stubborn and it doesn't want to come off, you can dip your swab into the super nozzle cleaner first, do a once over, let it sit for a couple of minutes, and then come back to it, and it'll be a lot more easy to go ahead and take it off. So the top edge of this wiper blade is also really important. That area comes in contact with ink quite a bit. So this guy will get dirty every time you use it, regardless of how much you use it. So it's important you keep this guy clean, especially because the plastic is black. It's going to be really difficult to tell when it's dirty at first. So, okay, so that part's done. Normally we would go ahead and top this guy off. And we're going to hit the function key, dock the print head. But we have a couple more items that we're going to cover. Next, we're going to show you, let me see if I have a little piece of fabric to clean here. I think right here I should have a little piece of cloth around here somewhere. I do not. I'll point at it. So next thing that you want to do is to clean your encoder strip. It's going to be this transparent guy right here. You're going to use 70%, I repeat 70% isopropyl alcohol. 99% is too strong, guys. Don't do that. So if you get really close up on here, the camera won't catch it. There's little tiny gray lines. That's why it appears gray. So this guy is really important, and that's the part that tells the print head where it is, left and right on the gantry here. So it's super important. So what we're going to do, you're going to get a lint-free cloth with 70% alcohol on it. You're going to pinch it on both sides with that cloth, and you're going to rub it end to end. When you get to where the print head is, since it's undocked, you can gently move it to the side, and then clean the rest of this strip. In addition to that, next thing is going to be part of your monthly maintenance. You're going to re-grease this bar. So this guy's really important to maintain as well. So your printer's going to come with one of these guys. Once you run out, you probably want to get some more. So you're going to get a clean, lint-free cloth. You're going to wipe all of the grease off of this bar, kind of like how we did the encoder strip. So you're just going to wipe it clean. It's going to be dry. You're going to open this guy up. You can either put some on your finger or onto a swab. You're going to put globs every 1.5 inches or so along here, just a little amount. And you move the head left and right to spread it out. I want you to put some on the bottom too, and that'll get you all taken care of. So you just gently kind of run it back and forth to spread that grease out. Once you're done with that, you can go ahead and hit function and return the print head. Okay, we're going to clip the lines. So over time, these short tubes here that are the soft ones, these will wear out over time. To help them last longer, you want to move your clips and massage where they were clipped. I'll typically move and massage it in the morning so that I don't forget in the afternoon. But we didn't talk about that during the startup, so we're doing it now. So you want to move the clips, massage where it was clipped, and then clip it shut. My personal preference is to alternate the lines up and down so that they kind of sit a little easier when they're together. Okay, all right, so now your last step is to turn it off with the switch on the back, and you're all set with that. One maintenance that is important to be aware of, but is not one that you should do regularly, this is going to be an as-needed maintenance. You're going to clean the encoder wheel. So that's going to be on this side here. This area doesn't get dirty very often, so you don't need to keep an eye on this all the time. It's only when you're getting front and back registration issues is when you would want to give this some attention. So just like with the encoder strip, it's going to be that 70% alcohol, and it's going to be this clear plastic wheel here. You're going to gently pinch it with that lint-free cloth. Oh, my hand's casting too much of a shadow. And then I want you to capture the back of here, if you can. Does it reach? So you're going to put your hand on the back while you pinch the wheel. And you're going to gently push the gantry from the center. And that's going to spin the wheel between your fingers. I don't think the camera can really capture the spinning. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, a little bit, you can kind of tell. So once that's all done, you can turn it on with the switch on the back, and it's going to home back into position. And then this guy can go back on. Okay, and that's the circulation because this one's a plus. And then once you're all shut down, I'll wait until the circulation's done in case you can't really hear me that well. Okay, so last thing that you want to do is check your ink levels before you shut it down. These ink levels are going to be really important because that's how the printer is going to sit until the next time that you use it. So just double check your ink levels, make sure everything's looking good. If anything's low, top it off, and then you're all set. And then this can sit until the next time you want to use it. If you guys have any questions, I think now is a good time for some Q&A. we're going to put this printer kind of back into its position. So it doesn't necessarily need to be based around anything that we covered today. If you guys have just any general questions, I'm happy to address them. Do you press the shirt before pre-treating? If it's wrinkly, I definitely will. If it's not that wrinkly, then I'll just go ahead and pre-treat it, and then during the pressing process, it'll flatten out. If you have a particularly fibrous garment that you're having issues with, go ahead and give that a shot. That might really help. Certainly won't hurt. So if the ink bottles are low, does that have anything with the lines not being full the next day? So if the bottles do not have ink at that end, because this is a gravity-fed system, it's not a vacuum system. So if there's not ink on one side, it is going to drain to the side that doesn't have ink. So naturally, this side is clipped off. So this side is always going to be good. It's the ink bottle side that it can drain into if there's no ink in there. Alternatively, if you recently replaced some dampers, it's possible that your damper is not fully seated and it's allowing some air into the system, or something is not fully hooked up right. So if you are having that issue, Betty, then go ahead and shoot us an email and we can follow up and make sure that everything's looking good. Is there any kind of Creators Live topics that you guys would like us to cover in the future? Anything that we haven't already covered, or maybe we did cover it and you just want to hear it again from maybe a different perspective, anything like that? We always love to hear input on things that we can do that will add value to your guys' production. Obviously, we want to make sure that if you guys are spending time with us here, that it's something that's valuable to you, right? So any kind of ideas that you guys have, go ahead and throw it out. In-depth, direct rip, that's cool. Wife wants to know how to print on canvas. So canvas is cool. Depends on what kind. Is it like canvas tote bags, or is it canvas like painting type canvas? Painting canvas. Okay, so if it's mounted onto wood, that'll be a little bit trickier because the wood is not always sitting flat. So if you lay it down and it's not going to be completely flat, you're going to have to tape it down. So you're going to want some double-sided tape on the four corners to make sure that guy is nice and flat. As far as color, typically canvas is going to be nice and white. So you don't have to have pre-treat, but pre-treat will certainly help. So put a little bit of light pre-treat on there, heat gun it dry. That'll do pretty good. From there, you would just kind of center it on your print table. What I like to do for that kind of thing is I would just print maybe like a square outline onto the print table directly. And then you know what your area is and you can line up your deal properly there. That way your top center, your design is all set and you're not going to accidentally print slightly offset from the canvas. So I hope that helps. Once it's printed, you're going to need to give it a clear coat. It's not going to dry up like paint will. It'll always be kind of like fresh newspaper consistency, even if you take it over and you kind of hover it on the heat press or something. So you will need to give it a clear coat for it to be nice and handleable without smudging it. So in-depth direct rip, we can certainly do that. Proper sizing and placement of prints for left chest. So for left chest prints, it depends on the size of your garment. If you have the adult platen, which I have right here, it gets a little bit tricky, but it is doable. So in the direct rip, you would want to do usually top right corner, and then just give yourself maybe a ½ inch margin on each side. Luckily, I have another spare shirt here. So let's say that I want to print this corner right here. So if I have the shirt laid out, I want to print it right here. I would get the whole stack of shirts and I'd press really hard so it makes a little indent into the garment. right where I want it to print. And I'm going to just line up that indent right into the corner of the platen. Your top right corner is going to center the graphic right here. And as long as you have your graphic sized properly, it should go to the same place every time. If your garments aren't really conducive to that kind of method, the next best thing is going to be your chest platen. And I never told you my name. My name's Bryan. I think you guys are going to be seeing a lot more of me. Remember it. My email, if you guys have any questions at any time, you can always email me, or any kind of input, Bryan, B-R-Y-A-N, at omniprintonline.com. So any kind of feedback, any ideas, any questions, if you guys need to place any orders, anything like that, you can always shoot me an email. We'll get you all taken care of. If it's something that I can't address personally, I'll get you to someone who can. So that's how I would do the left chest prints. With the chest platen, you would just do top center, just like a normal print. And you would just manually make sure that your graphic would fit on the platen. I believe off the top of my head, it's 4.5 inches maximum on the chest platen, and that's a square. So if your graphic is larger than that, it would print over the edge. I have printed on wood. It's possible. It's just not very time efficient. The printer can do it, but there are better ways to do it. I'm sure there's other applications that would do it a lot easier. So it'd be just like with the canvas. So you would put on a little bit of light pre-treat onto the wood. You would go, I mean, assuming that the wood is light enough that you don't need a white underbase, then it shouldn't be too difficult. If the wood is very dark, you would want to maybe roll on some dark pre-treat onto the wood. You would use like an actual paint roller rather than like the spray gun, because I think the spray gun volume is going to be too high. You get the pre-treat on there, you heat gun it dry or let it air dry or something. Print your white underbase, and you might have to heat gun your white underbase dry. And then you can go ahead and print your color layer after that. So any other questions, anything like that, you guys can always email me directly. I'm more than happy to address anything that you guys have to throw at me. You can always give me the difficult questions. I don't shy away from any of that. So anything that you guys have before we go ahead and call it? All right. Okay. All right. Sounds good. So you guys have a great rest of your day. We'll see you all next time. I think next time we're going to shoot for 2 p.m. just like always, but we're going to try to do the pre-treat one. We'll have a nice demonstration for you here, and we'll get you all taken care of on the pre-treat front. I think the one after that, we're either going to do either the direct rip stuff, or we might do Photoshop tips or some kind of photo editing type information. So keep an eye out for that. We'll always try to have useful information for you guys. So we'll go ahead and catch you guys next time. If you need anything, you have my email address. I'll see you guys later.